This summer, Simon Moro, Terry Hart, Knobs, an audio production podcast. Remember to like and subscribe.
Good morning, Terry.
Good morning, Simon.
We are talking about mixing today and whether or not to have a third party mix your production.
Because it's a bit of a not myth, what would you say? It's a pervasive rumor.
Yeah. And I'm like similar to you, I can see cases for both. So
Yeah.
to clarify, do you have the producer mix it or do you get another person mix it? Do you mix it yourself? Do you get a mixer to mix it? So I think it's a relatable thing, and my opinion of it has changed over the years, and I kind of have a foot in both camps.
Yeah.
Where do you stand on this?
Well, it just crossed my mind because it happened literally the other day. I was in the middle of a production and they were discussing getting somebody else to mix. And I hear it from time to time, and I do understand why that would be an attractive prospect, but sometimes it would definitely be detrimental. As a producer, we sit there with these artists and we go into such exacting detail sometimes on the sound design and putting this song together. To have somebody else come in later in the project and try to get into that headspace could be quite difficult. They basically would have to learn what the song's about from scratch. And in cases like that, I think it could be detrimental. In other cases, you need someone to not be attached to the sounds and to tear them up and not be emotionally vested in what's there. So I can definitely see both camps, but it's an interesting rumor that I just hear time and time again. So I thought it would be interesting to discuss.
Yeah. Well, maybe I'll share my mixing journey, and we have a similar journey.
Yeah.
So I've been making records since 2000. And I did mix with the masters with you in France in 2014 with Michael Brower and David Kahn.
Was that long ago? Wow.
It was that long ago. And I don't know if you remember, but while we were there, I actually had my first number one. And it was Anthony Kalia, a live album that was recorded at the Palms.
Yep.
And it was a George Michael tribute record. So I'd had a number one record while I was in there, but I do not believe that I knew what mixing was until we went to that seminar.
Yeah.
I had taught mixing at university. I thought I was a mixer.
Yeah, right.
But until I saw Michael work, I did not know what mixing was. And at that point, probably the greatest change was I had no idea how much responsibility really fell on the mixer's shoulders to make a song land.
Yeah.
I thought mixing was balancing sounds, using processing to make them sound subjectively cool.
And to improve your production, like what you've done before.
Yeah.
It was a bit of stroking your own ego when you got started, wasn't it?
It was, I would say, less significant than I thought.
Yeah.
I thought if the recording's good, if the performance is good, the mix is just, all you're doing is just making sure you can hear everything.
Yeah.
And put a reverb on it.
Mm-hmm.
After that, after watching Michael work, I was like, because he transformed what sounded like a home recording demo, because it was, and he made it sound like a Triple J hit.
Yeah.
In 45 minutes flat. I'm like, how did you do that with the exact same tools I've been using to mix?
The impact, the emotion,
all of
how
that.
it hit was just, yeah.
So for me, I became a mixer after 2014, and then my opinion on who should mix a record changed a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm interested in what was your experience of mixing, say, in your career prior to and then post mix with the masters?
It was a big jump for me as well. I remember I really enjoyed putting sounds together, but I felt like I was falling into a bit of a rut that you only have this certain selection of tools, even though there's a lot of tools. And at the time I did have a lot at my disposal, but I still felt like I was falling into the same routines, and I'd mix a song and I'd look at it and go, could I have done that differently? And I couldn't really see how. And I remember when we were pulling up tracks during that seminar, and we pulled up my one, Michael asked, what were you looking for here? And I said, I'd like to know how I could have done this differently. I'm not saying that I was necessarily unhappy with that particular song that we pulled up, but I always felt like it was just always leading me down one path. But to look at it from an emotional standpoint and to have things on faders and ready to grab and move around encouraged you to be bold and to experiment, and you could push songs in a whole heap of different ways. Like specifically with this setup, it's made so that you can paint sounds like textures, like you can just throw things around. And that was a big breakthrough for me, but also the tricks that he used to make things sound aggressive or not aggressive or soft or distant really improve the soundstage and the soundscape that you could build, which is really the whole game, isn't it? It's like, but yeah, it is different mixing with that in mind.
So yeah, from that point, I had a stronger opinion about mixer selection for a record. I actually felt like I should mix everyone's record. I know that, I thought now I really need to mix the records I'm producing.
Yeah.
So Michael has a particular approach, and we have our own interpretation of that works for us, our own styles, and there are thousands of incredible mixers in the world that have their own styles. So for me, it's not necessarily about you need the producer to mix it or you need this person to mix it. It's about you need the right person to mix it.
Yeah.
And I think, to your point at the beginning, which is if you hand it over to someone that hasn't touched the project, there's going to be this potential for them to want to recreate the whole thing. And if that's what you're looking for, it's slightly concerning. It's slightly concerning to get to that point of production and not have found what you want.
Had that not been flagged earlier.
Correct.
Yeah.
Because sort of my opinion is a record is ready to mix when it sounds great with a static fader balance and maybe one reverb and one echo.
That's true. I've always felt really, really good about production when they're trying to argue with me that it doesn't need a mix.
Yeah.
I know it does.
Yeah.
But they're that happy.
Yeah.
That's a sign that you've done well, right?
Yeah. So it would be a red flag for me to be actively seeking a transformation. Like that would be an indication that production didn't go as planned.
Yeah.
And then it's looking to get the mixer to save the project, which we can do.
Yeah.
Like we can do that. The other thing that sort of worries me is when people say, I'll get my friend to mix it because it's going to be $150 a song.
Yeah, that's another issue.
Because a mixer can break great production quite easily.
And fool the artist. Like they can do things that we wouldn't, like slam the hell out of it with some limiter. So it's loud as all hell, but they will be attracted to that at first. It might take them time to realize that a lot of that emotional impact's lost. And that's hard to talk them out of often. Yeah.
So yeah, I think for me, it's about the right person, finding the right person.
Yeah.
The sort of fantasy of having the famous mixer overseas mix the record, pros and cons, because I know people that have sent records to big name mixers and they've been incredibly disappointed with what came back.
Absolutely.
And it could be a combination of unrealistic expectations, or it could be that mixer got their assistant to do it.
I feel like there's a bit of that going on, to be honest. Yeah.
Or it could be that they just did did a quick job.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not a big name. They just want it out the door and just have it done. Yeah.
Exactly. But maybe if we pause on the expectation thing for just a moment. So I remember when I did my solo album back in, I think, 2009.
Yeah.
And we finished the mixes and I was really happy. And then I was sending it overseas for mastering to a mastering engineer. I think his name was Roger Siebel. He did like Death Cab for Cutie and bands I was into at the time.
Yeah, okay.
And I remember getting the masters back in the post and I was so excited. I put the CD in and it sounded like the mixes.
Yeah.
And it's like my expectations were that I was going to put it on and it was just going to blow my mind. Like there was going to be like sparkles coming out of the CD player and I was going to like hallucinate angels. And
he should have just sent back Death Cab for Cutie. I was like,
exactly.
That's it. That's the sound I was looking
exactly,
for.
Yeah. So there was these expectations that weren't met. So it's almost like you can be setting yourself up for disappointment when the expectation is sort of greater than the reality.
Yeah, yeah.
Another experience I had similar to that was my first experience of by my standards today is probably an average vocal chain, but I remember when I plugged in I think it was a Rode NT1000 solid state mic into a Langevin preamp, which I think was like Manly might have bought them out. And it was a really good, clean thing. And I remember just speaking into the microphone and it just sounded like my voice.
Yeah.
And prior to that, using a lower quality chain, you hear the technology. It's like, it's a bit grainy, it's a bit noisy.
Bit thin, bit this,
exactly.
bit that. Yeah.
And then I thought, here's what was an expensive chain for me at the time. And I was expecting the same thing, like angels will sing to me. And like, it just sounds like my voice. And then we go up to, the next level of equipment, high-end converters, and great room, and we put it up and the angels don't sing, but the technology disappears.
Yeah, yeah. Or serves it.
Or serves
Or
it.
it's doing something. We put a 47 up. That's not very clean, but the edginess it's giving is in your favor.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's not that's slightly distorted or grainy, and I wish it wasn't. That feels really good.
That's a record.
Yeah. So the expectation setting is maybe something just to keep in mind, especially if you go into a celebrity mixer. It's going to come back and hopefully it's going to be amazing and your mind is blown. But if the production's great, it's probably going to come back and sound very good.
You should be there already.
Yeah.
They're not going to reinvent the song.
Yeah.
And nor should they.
Yeah. But in terms of do you outsource? Well, let's look at the cases in favor of outsourcing.
Yeah, sure. Pros and cons list.
Pros and cons. So I would say look to the skills that the people you're working with have. So for me, mixing is one of my strongest skills. Composition is one of my weakest.
Yeah.
So if someone needs a producer that can do a lot of composition and they don't have the budget for me to produce where I oversee the entire project, including the contracting of a composer, then you should pick a producer that's got strong composition skills. And I know a lot of producers that have very strong compositional skills, and they use those composition and arrangement skills to compensate for what they lack in mixing.
Yeah, fair enough.
So I would say if your producer is more in the camp of programming, performance, writing, then it would make sense to go and look for someone that specializes in the mix.
Yeah.
Because if you've done everything at the top level in that phase of the production, you're now going to be letting the production down by putting someone in control of a domain that they're not masters of.
Yeah, yeah.
And they'll be listening as a composer, as an arranger. It's like when people talk about the difference in sound between Pro Tools and Logic, and I pose the question, is the difference in sound the DAW or is it the user? Because a Logic user is going to be an arrangement composition mixer.
Yeah.
Whereas a Pro Tools mixer is going to be an engineer mixer.
Mm.
So is it the DAW or is it the mindset of the operator?
Yeah.
So that's where I think it makes sense. If you are working with a producer that actually has invested a lot of time in the craft of mixing, then I'd almost be inclined to, at the very least, get the other person to do a test mix and the producer you've been working with to do a test mix on the same song.
Yeah.
And then weigh it up.
And that's an option, not to be forgotten as well.
Yeah.
Sometimes people get an idea in their head that they're going to go one way or the other, and they shouldn't. Try it out.
Yeah.
Or study what they do and see what you like and don't like about it.
Yeah, exactly. So I think the use case for outsourcing is if the people you are working with on everything up until mixing, if mixing is a deficit for them, then it makes sense to look elsewhere.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you want to do the case for sticking with the team?
We do. We take on some projects, and there are a lot. There's a lot of work that goes into bringing the vision together, whether that's sounds, arrangements, throwing everything in. To outsource it and lose that could be a massive risk, and it would come back to whether if everyone's really liking where it is. I'm not sure that a separate mix engineer will have the guts to do nothing. You've gone to someone at the end of the project, you're going to pay them a certain amount of money. Most people will just have this gut feeling that they need to prove their worth, unless they're absolute pros. And they'll change things. They'll say, you know what, I don't think that guitar's needed there. And they just won't be able to sit back, leave their hands off it and send it back sounding basically the same as it was. But a pro, and that's why we trust really good mastering engineers generally, they need to know sometimes that all it needed was one tiny bump at 2K and that's it. And that doesn't undervalue what they do. To me, that gives more value to what they do. I've had other experiences where we've gone to other engineers because we wanted what was there to be torn apart, nothing sacred, push it as hard as it can possibly go, which you can't do in production all the time. You're not putting it through a mixing chain. You're not carving up with crazy EQs, not because you're scared to, but it would mean that it's destructive and you lose bits and pieces of it. In those cases, I think there'd definitely be a case if somebody's got a specific sound and is very, very good at that. And I love to receive pop mixes for that reason. I'm not messing with someone's carefully put together strat tone through the amp that they had from their father and this particular pedal that they hand built. I understood, because I stood there and watched it being recorded, that was very, very important and that is sacred. Other things might not be. The drum tone, he was a session guy and it doesn't matter what you do to it. But I know that for the artist to bring what they want out of the music, we can't touch that. Whereas if it was just delivered to someone else, it would be torn up. Now, pop's different. No one's really all that attached to anything because most of it's come out of a computer or it's synth sounds. And I love mixing it for that reason, or just receiving it without being part of the production team because you have, like, it's open season. You can do whatever you want, tear it to pieces. And I think in those cases, it would definitely be beneficial to have somebody else mix it just because they aren't attached to anything in particular. I might know that I sat there for hours and hours and hours on end trying to get that synth sound and would not tear it up as much as somebody else would, even if it would be beneficial to the song. But yeah, I mean, a lot of times I think acoustic-based instruments, acoustic-based arrangements, and when I say acoustic, I'm still including electric guitars, electric bass, but that's in there.
Live instruments.
They're an actual instrument. Understanding how it was recorded and what the artist expects from it or the individual band members expect from it is going to be a huge benefit to making the artist happy. And in the end, we shouldn't be making it for the market. We should be making it for the artist, like where they're working for them. So doing the best by them will require the production team to mix it, even if they're not as good a mix engineer as you could possibly hire.
Yes, an interesting one. I think ultimately it comes down to finding the right team.
Yeah.
And in Australia, I think the mindset tends to be, from a producer point of view, what I see more to be more of the norm is a producer trying to take the whole pie.
Mm-hmm.
And that means that there's going to be, one or two domains in which they are great and probably the right person for the job. But then there'll be other parts of the process where they really could get a better result outsourcing.
Absolutely.
And it's scary. It's scary as producers to dish out the revenue to other people.
To dish it out, and it could also end up misrepresenting your work.
That's true as well.
Like if you hear about something back that's not to your standard.
That's true.
Yeah.
And I think this is where it comes down to conversations with, with the producer that you're working with, or as a producer to have these conversations with the artist. As you know, I'm a producer that actually likes bringing experts in to cover my deficiencies.
Yeah.
So, I hire you a lot for bits where your composition, arrangement, keyboard playing skills are better than mine. So if I've got a project on, I know I can just chuck the files next door. You'll do the thing that you're better at than me, and then it comes back to my desk and I do the thing that I can do well.
Yeah.
So I think that from a perspective of an artist, you got to weigh. I guess you weigh up your costs, because if I'm making a record, we might be spending $4,000 to $6,000 per song, sometimes more, and that's kind of what it costs to have a team.
Yeah,
because we've got session players, we've got arrangers, we've got assistants, we've got engineers. There's a whole team of people, and it becomes more expensive. I believe that the end result is significantly better for that, but you also have to be realistic about it. Whereas if you go to one producer, they might say, I'll do it all for you for $2,500 a song.
Mm-hmm.
And if that makes sense to do, then it's the one-stop shop.
Yeah.
But just recognizing that there will be deficiencies.
There has to be. Nobody's great at everything, and that's probably one of the biggest changes between the classic era of making records and what we're in today. It's all these satellite setups, and they don't talk to each other. It was very common not all that long ago that you would have in the room the engineer who would run the tape machine or Pro Tools, an assistant who would be clocking the settings, the producer would be separate and would be controlling the session. You'd have a drum tech, you'd have a guitar tech, you'd have a composer who was in there as like, oh, okay, we're making that a 5/4 bar, I'm going to have to change a string arrangement. Like there would be a bunch of people working at once, and there was budget for it. Definitely there's not as big a budget as there was, which makes it hard, but there was a benefit to doing it that way, that everybody who was wearing that hat was the best possible person to do that.
Yep.
And it's changed, and it's probably changed for mixers as well, because even if you are just hired to mix, I know I often get a good rapport with the artist when I'm hired to mix, because I ring them and talk to them about the song. It's like, oh, we've never had that happen before. And I still feel like I'm not getting paid for that, and I might spend hours and hours and hours before I'm even comfortable to sit down with a song to understand exactly what I'm getting. But that's getting rarer and rarer.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was never taught that, and I never taught it at uni.
Yeah.
That you need to have that rapport with the artist to be able to sit in that seat with the responsibility to mix a song.
And it is a responsibility. Like, it always keep in mind that it's their baby.
Yep. Yeah.
They might be terrible, but they think they're going to be the next Madonna.
Yep.
And you should approach it with that same, attitude and confidence in it. Otherwise, it's
Yeah.
we're all wasting our time, aren't we?
Exactly. And, on that responsibility, one of the things that I notice with the DIY approach is that these artists are actually doing incredible work in a bedroom studio.
Yeah.
Like when I listen to the production and the ideas and the writing, this is really, 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 really cool. And then I listen to the mix, the upload to Triple J Unearthed, and what I hear is an incredible production that got broken at the mixing stage. It's like,
repeatedly that's the case.
So much, and it's like this. What happens is the song goes out into the world, and it doesn't land. It fails to connect, and the artist thinks, "I mustn't be a good artist."
And what they might think to change what they're doing. They're like, "Well, what I'm doing's not quite right." When it was dead on them, there's 100 things that could go wrong there. It's just
exactly. So as mixers, like the mix makes way more of a difference than you think.
Yeah.
And just like I believe a song is ready to mix when a static fader balance and the song sounds great, I think a song is mixed when you could put it on radio.
Yeah.
And again, before working with Brower, I was waiting for mastering before it's felt ready.
Yeah.
And now I'd be happy to put any of my mixes normalized.
Yeah.
Not even slammed, just normalized. I'd be happy to put them on radio.
And that is the big change. I think you and I both, we spend more time arguing with the mastering engineers because they munted it.
Yeah.
Because we'd be just as happy to send it out as it was.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think an indication from a mix perspective is if that mix gives you the energy and excitement and power that you imagined for the song and that you would be happy to send that to every record label and put it on air, then the mixer did their job.
Yeah. And that is a big secret, like to be confident with that and to not ignore that thing in the back of your head when you're mixing, that if you want that to hit harder or to sound bigger, you can't leave that to anyone else.
No.
And you can't ignore that instinct. You got to do whatever you can to make that happen.
Yeah.
And sometimes that means pulling every fader down and starting again, and you need to be confident enough to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. I think the mix is the product, the mastering is the packaging.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I just like to have I don't think my ears are perfect. I just like to have a last final quality control on the way out the door.
Yep.
And that's the mastering's probably almost taken on a bit of a life of its own now. It was literally there to make sure needles didn't skip out of grooves in records or whatever the medium was at the time.
Yeah.
But it's taken on a life of its own a bit, which probably needs to be dialed back a little bit in a lot of cases.
It's the two markets.
Yeah.
It's the DIY and it's the professional. And I would say over the last 2 decades, the responsibility of the mastering engineer became far greater because they're given very average quality productions that, as you mentioned earlier, you can trick the listener by slamming something and saturating it a bit. It suddenly gives it more energy and more life, but it really should have had that at the mix stage. So mastering engineers are being way more aggressive because they have to, because they're getting lesser quality work, which is fine because empowering artists to express and put their art into the world is a beautiful thing. But then you need to decide as an artist how much you care about your work and understand that the people that are involved in the record, while it is your music, it is your baby, they have a significant role in whether or not your art is going to connect with the listener.
Yeah.
And that's why you need to make sure that, to save $300, you might also lose the opportunity to connect with a listener.
Because it could be that fun. It could be the greatest song in the world. But as you said, it is if it is your baby, if you had a child, you would sit there and do everything you could to make sure it succeeds. That's not a slight on the child. The child could succeed on its own, the child might be brilliant, but you give them every possible advantage they can, and a good mix is up there. And I mean, it was interesting. We were listening to some mixed versions of a should we say?
Yeah.
Of Coldplay songs.
Yeah.
Fantastic songs, but nothing much happened. Things were kind of stale and boring, and it was that same great song you knew, but by the time you're halfway through the second verse, you're just kind of yawning and looking at your phone. It takes away that.
Yeah.
If there's interesting parts there, it will show you those and take you through it like a tour guide. Like, here, listen to this. Here, listen to this. I always think of it like a toddler.
Yeah.
When you meet a toddler, like a friend's toddler, I don't have kids myself, but you meet a friend's toddler, they like to take you into their bedroom and show you all their favorite toys.
Yeah.
It's like, this is my train.
Yeah.
This
is
is my
like
fire
us.
truck.
This is my new compressor, Terry. This is my new
yeah,
tape.
we don't grow up much, do we? But I think of the mixing job as the same. Like, you sit on the fader, it's like, oh, there's that awesome guitar lip. Have a listen to that.
Yeah.
Now check out this synth. Now check out this piano, or whatever's going on. But it's your job to deliver those things that are all there.
Yeah.
The brilliance of the song is all there, but you're given it the best possible chance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's my response to the question of who should mix.
Yeah.
Is what is the domain of the person you're working with? What are they the expert in? And if you're working with a producer who has put a lot of time into the craft of mixing, then keep it in-house.
Yeah, yeah.
If you're working with a producer that has focused their skills in other domains, then it makes sense to seek another mixer.
Yeah.
But potentially do a test mix.
Yeah.
Get
if
your
you
producer.
think there's things that will be lost, if there's things
exactly,
that are,
there's no harm. Like, let's say if you're mixing a record, and like, I don't know what everyone's rates are, but let's say for a decent mixer, you're probably going to look around $1,000 or so, somewhere between $800 and $1,500 a song.
Yeah.
So let's say 10 to 15 grand for an album. It's probably worth spending an extra $1,000 to get that one extra mix.
Yeah.
To decide which direction to go.
Yeah. Which is a hard thing, because how often do you get asked for a test mix, but people aren't willing to pay? And it's, but then you're sitting there and like, well, I mean, I can't dedicate a whole day to this, can I? But at the same time, you kind of have to. Yeah,
and I think the thing with a you should pay for the test mix.
Yeah,
because then you'll get the actual
my point exactly. You're not actually doing a test of anything if you're not paying for it. Yeah,
exactly. And I'd do a test mix for a big name artist because that the thing is that they should pay for it anyway.
Well, big name artists will generally have labels. Labels know the go.
Yeah,
they will happily pay for every test mix that they get. Yeah.
But I think one other thing to consider, because I've had people say to me, well, could you do a cheaper mix for me? And my response to that is, there are two types of mixes, a finished mix and an unfinished mix.
Yeah.
So
that's a great statement, yeah.
Yeah, like a cheaper mix is an unfinished mix.
Yeah.
It's like there's not a cheaper version. And it's the same thing when someone sort of come in and said, well, what if I mix it and then I bring it into the studio and we do some tweaks at the end? And it's like, well,
that's insane.
That's like saying I'm going to build the house and then I'm going to paint it as completely finished, and then you come in and just help me fix the house. It's like, well, if the layout's wrong, I can't just repaint the lounge room.
Yeah.
Like we need to knock it down and build it again.
The foundation's out. Like we need to report the slab.
Exactly. So they're just some things to keep in mind. Look to the mixer that has the skills. And if that's the person you're working with, then that's fantastic because as you said, Terry, they intimately know the project. You have the rapport with them, and it sort of makes sense.
Yeah, and that's to add to that. That's another thing I definitely keep in mind, whether it is necessary to intimately know the project. Just ask yourself that if there's something that you're going to be very, very upset about if it changes at all, well, I mean, you could absolutely let them know that, but if it's more complicated than that, then sometimes assuming they have the skill set, keeping it in-house can be very beneficial.
Remember to like and subscribe.